the Mariana Trench. But at its bottom lies something even more mysterious. The Challenger Deep, the deepest and darkest place in the ocean at more than 11 kilometers deep, where the immense pressure could crush a submarine like a soda can. What secrets are hidden in that pitch-black pit? Government cover-ups, giant sea monsters, and why NASA is suddenly exploring these dark depths. Get ready, because we're about to dive into the mysteries of the Challenger Deep and discover the chilling secrets it holds. In the early 19th century, the existence of life in the deep sea was a topic of intense debate. French naturalist Fram believed the seabed was permanently covered in ice, while British naturalist Edward Forbes suggested that the immense water pressure at more than 610 m depth made life impossible. But these misconceptions were completely disproven in 1872. In December of that year, Humm's Challenger, a Pearl-class corvette, set sail from England under the command of Captain George Strongness. The ship's objective was simple: to explore the ocean depths. For more than 3.5 years, the Challenger sailed 199,640 km across the Pacific, Atlantic, and Southern Oceans, and even crossed the Antarctic polar circle. Of course, they didn't go sightseeing. During the voyage, the expedition conducted oceanographic experiments at 54 stations, observing currents, water temperature, and oceanic conditions. Additionally, the crew sounded the depths every 20-25 kilometers, using about 290 km of rope and hundreds of kilos of lead. To give you an idea, with that rope you could go to New York, to Philadelphia, and back. It was hard and exhausting work, but back then it was the only way to measure the depth of the seabed. On March 23, 1875, Humm's Challenger stopped in the middle of the Pacific Ocean, southwest of the Mariana Islands, to perform a routine depth sounding. As they had done countless times, the British scientists and sailors aboard lowered a weighted rope into the water. Only unlike the other times, the rope kept falling and falling and falling, apparently endlessly. Eventually, the weight touched bottom at 884 meters, more than 8 kilometers below the surface. Considering that before the Challenger expedition, it was believed that the world's oceans were monotonous and relatively shallow, this impressive depth sounding undoubtedly shocked the world. The Challenger expedition marked the birth of modern oceanography and provided the first rudimentary map of the ocean floor. This showed how the seabed gradually descended from the coast before plunging thousands of meters toward Great Plains. However, what they found while sailing the Pacific waters was very different. The depth soundings indicated that the ocean floor descends again, this time to a trench 8 kilometers deep, which disproved previous misconceptions that the seabed was flat and monotonous. What exactly was this practically bottomless trench that the Challenger had discovered? It was the Mariana Trench, the deepest oceanic trench in the world. But the discovery of the deepest point in the ocean wasn't the Challenger's only achievement. A summary report of the expedition records that the crew dredged deposits from these depths, extracting samples of radiolarians and foraminifera, two subgroups of single-celled marine organisms that produce intricate silica skeletons. Incredibly, the Challenger demonstrated that the ocean was not only flat and monotonous, but descended to seemingly impossible depths. The expedition even proved that life could exist there. Undoubtedly, the Challenger expedition increased interest in the deep sea and the Mariana Trench, but it would be another 75 years before this place would again be the center of attention. In 1951, the British research vessel of 140 tons, called Humm's Challenger IAA, yes seriously, embarked on a 3-year expedition to investigate the extreme depths of the Pacific Ocean. They explored the Mariana Trench using a large amount of tension wire as well as 63 kilograms of scrap iron. After waiting about 90 minutes, the scrap finally fell to the ocean floor, recording an astonishing depth of 1070.88, Mundus depth record. A few months later, Challenger Day returned to the same place with the help of the Royal New Zealand Navy Yard, which managed to use an echo sounder to better understand what they were facing in the depths. The echo sounder measures depth by emitting sound waves or sonar pulses through the water. The pulses bounce off solid objects and reflect back toward a detector. By measuring the time it takes for sound waves to travel to the seabed and return to the surface, scientists realized they could get an accurate picture of the underwater world. Using this improved echo sounder system, they explored the Mariana Trench, and what they discovered left them astonished. The findings revealed a considerable area with a depth greater than 1070.90 m. This would be what became known as the Challenger Deep, the deepest natural point on Earth located at the very bottom of the Mariana Trench. The Grand Canyon, known for its impressive depth of 1,829 ms, is more than 5 times less deep than the Mariana Trench. Good thing this place is submerged, because if not, the fall would be long. Hypothetically, If you swam directly from the surface to the Mariana Trench, it would take you about 4 hours. But anyway, I doubt very much you'd reach the bottom. The water pressure in the Mariana Trench is crushing, literally. The deeper you go, the more the pressure increases due to the enormous weight of the water above. Upon reaching extreme depths, like the Mariana Trench, there are 109073 m of water at the surface, so the pressure here is more than 1,000 times greater than at sea level, reaching about 16,000 seer-pounds per square inch. To give you an idea, that's equivalent to 100 elephants standing on a square inch of space. Yes, let's say that if a human being experienced that pressure, they would be pulverized in an instant. In fact, this tremendous pressure is so intense that it can crush even most submarines in the blink of an eye, unless they're built with specialized materials like titanium or composite hulls. We'll talk about that later, but pressure isn't the only terrifying aspect of the Mariana Trench. Given that this place is at 109073 m depth, it's impossible for sunlight to reach. The Mariana Trench is plunged in perpetual total darkness. Despite the crushing pressure and total darkness of the Hadal Zone, life exists. In fact, it thrives in amazing ways. For example, the Mariana snailfish. These animals are currently the deepest dwelling fish ever recorded, living at an incredible 82,040 med, approximately halfway through the Hadal Zone. To survive the incredible pressure at these depths, their bodies are soft and gelatinous, with flexible bones that don't compress. While shallow water fish use a swim bladder to float, this would compress in the deep sea. That's why snailfish lack this organ. To feed, Mariana snailfish eat small crustaceans. With very limited vision and in total darkness, they hunt using the suction technique, quickly opening their mouth to engulf their prey like an underwater vacuum. But if you thought these guys are weird, look at this. Yes, a true nightmare. You're seeing a big-fin squid, considered the deepest dwelling squid in the world with sightings at more than 696 met. This makes it the only known squid that inhabits the Hadal Zone. They're incredibly rare to see, which means very little is known about how they survive in such extreme conditions. What we do know is that encountering one of these 7.3 met monsters on a trip to the Mariana Trench is not for the faint of heart. Now that you get an idea of how extreme and supernatural the Mariana Trench is, you might wonder how this immense abyss was formed. I mean, what creates a nearly 11-kilometer pit in the Earth's crust? It could be the result of the impact of a powerful prehistoric meteorite, or perhaps some nuclear test. Fortunately, it's not like that. To explain it, let me give you a geography lesson. And don't worry, I promise it'll be brief. The Mariana Trench was formed through a process called subduction. Imagine the Earth's crust as a set of giant, thin plates floating on very hot molten rock called the mantle. These plates aren't fixed, but move slowly and sometimes collide with each other. When two plates meet, the heavier one sinks beneath the other, sliding toward the mantle. The other plate rises above, creating a super deep trench where the ocean floor sinks along with the plate. The Mariana Trench was formed exactly like this when the Pacific Plate collided with the Philippine Plate and slid beneath it, and the Challenger Deep is located near the southern end of this enormous underwater collision zone. Considering how deep, dark, and dangerous the Mariana Trench is, you're probably not very excited about the idea of visiting it. But not everyone thinks the same. In 1953, Swiss scientist Auguste Piccard designed the Triste submersible, a pioneering vehicle capable of withstanding the enormous pressures of the deep sea. This Italian-made deep-diving research bathyscaphe, a type of self-propelled submersible, was dominated by a 15-meter-long hull. The hull contained about 83 Hultrantinene 20 of gasoline. Although it seems strange, gasoline is practically incompressible, making it ideal for maintaining buoyancy under pressure. Hanging under the hull was a tiny, narrow, spherical cabin 1 m in diameter, with steel walls 13 cm air thick to protect its occupants from the immense pressure of the deep sea. After 7 long years perfecting the design, the Tri-Sea was finally ready to attempt the risky 11-kilometer dive to the Mariana Trench in 1960. The commanders of this dangerous mission were Swiss oceanographer Jacques Piccard, Auguste's son, and us Navy lieutenant and deep-water explorer Don Walsh. Let's hope they got along, because the two men would spend the next 9 hours squeezed into that cozy spherical cabin. Descending at about 322-kilometer height in just 10 minutes, they found themselves surrounded by total darkness. The only illumination came from the submersible's powerful lights. But that wasn't all. As they descended and sunlight faded, the temperature also dropped, reaching 7 dieck. To stay warm, they used portable heaters, while to cheer themselves up, they ate no less than 15 chocolate bars. Yes, everything seemed to be going according to plan, but did you really think a dive to the deepest place on Earth would be so easy? As they approached the Mariana Trench, at a depth near 944 em, they heard something that froze their blood, a deafening noise. But it wasn't any cryptid from the depths or an underwater earthquake. Actually, the noise was the result of a crack in the outer glass of the window that shook the entire vessel. Heavens. Undoubtedly, both men feared the worst, but to their amazement, the Tri-Sea didn't break. The only problem was that the only thing separating them from instant death was a single layer of plexiglass. Miraculously, the inner panel remained impermeable, allowing Walsh and Piccard to continue their descent. And after 4 hours and 47 minutes of tension, cold, and claustrophobia, the Tri-Sea finally reached its destination, the Mariana Trench, making Piccard and Walsh the first humans to achieve it. Being the first to sight this place, they were undoubtedly eager to explore it. But due to the crack in the plexiglass window, they agreed to remain on the ocean floor for only 20 minutes. Still, the crew didn't waste time and observed with amazement from their small cabin. They reported having observed some type of flatfish about 30 cm and shrimp before undertaking the 3-hour ascent back to the surface. Some scientists now believe the supposed flatfish was probably a sea cucumber, as it's unlikely that fish survive in the Mariana Trench due to the immense pressure. Today, the deepest observed fish is, in fact, the Mariana snailfish, remember? But as we've seen, even these fish are found at a depth of 8,20,29 m, more than 270.43 m above the Mariana Trench. Walsh and Piccard's observations of the supposed snailfish and shrimp provided more evidence that life could somehow exist at these extreme depths. Despite the success of the Tri-Sea expedition, it would be more than 30 years until the next visit to the Mariana Trench, and this time without human participation. And no, I'm not referring to an alien expedition. Between 1995 and 1998, the Kaiko, a Japanese-made unmanned remotely operated vehicle ROB, visited the Mariana Trench on multiple occasions. There were no humans aboard, but it was the first expedition to take samples from the trench to obtain mud and sediments and record images of the area. After several trips, Kaiko's video camera detected a sea cucumber, a scale worm, and a multi-legged worm-like predator approximately 2.5 cm long. The collected samples revealed the presence of a 5 cm long amphipod crustacean known as Hierondelia gigas. Who would have imagined that the Mariana Trench was such an active spot for all types of abyssal marine life? The next dive into the deep sea did involve a human being, and a very famous one at that, none other than the director of Titanic, James Cameron. It may sound strange, but Cameron is in fact one of the world's most outstanding deep-water explorers. As a young man, he admired with wonder the documentaries of marine explorer Jacques Cousteau. He began diving at 17, which only increased his passion for ocean exploration. That love for the deep sea grew even more when he became a director. His 1989 film, The Abyss, is set in the ocean, and Cameron even claimed that one of the reasons he wanted to film Titanic was to explore the shipwreck remains. In total, Cameron has made about 33 dives to the Titanic wreckage over the years. Undoubtedly, this man is a deep water expert. But his boldest underwater mission took place in 2012 when he piloted the Deep Sea Challenger, a 7 m submersible designed to reach the bottom of the Mariana Trench. The craft was made with a special material called syntactic foam, a lightweight, resistant composite material that provided buoyancy while resisting compression under extreme pressure at those depths. The submersible also featured a pilot sphere barely large enough for one occupant. This sphere where Cameron was located was reinforced with steel walls, 6.3 cm thick, designed to withstand a pressure of approximately 16,500 psi, sufficient for Mariana Trench conditions. After a 2.5-hour descent, the bright yellow submersible finally reached its destination. Unlike the Trist, which only remained 20 minutes on the seabed and didn't have research equipment or cameras, the Deep-Sea Challenger was designed as a scientific platform and could remain at the bottom of the Mariana Trench for 3 hours to explore. This allowed Cameron to take many samples with a hydraulic arm and capture the first high-resolution images of the trench. Despite the longer duration of the dive, upon emerging, Cameron described the landscape as desolate and stated that the Challenger Deep looked like the moon. Scientists who examined the recordings and samples provided by Cameron were more than thrilled with their findings. Holothuria. A gray holothuria. These molecules could inhibit the accumulation of amyloid plaques in the brain, a distinctive feature of Alzheimer's disease. Who would have imagined that such a desolate place could harbor the key to revolutionary medical discoveries? Undoubtedly, James Cameron's findings in the Mariana Trench were quite titanic. Okay, a bad joke. For more than 6 years after the Deep-Sea Challenger expedition, the Mariana Trench remained plunged in absolute darkness. This changed in May 2019, when billionaire adventurer and deep-water explorer Victor Vescovo followed Cameron's footsteps to the Earth's abyss. Vescovo was participating in his 5 Deeps expedition, which consisted of visiting the deepest point of the 5 oceans aboard the DZ Limiting Factor, a custom-built submersible to reach extreme oceanic depths. The Limiting Factor was a masterpiece of engineering, 445 m long and 37 m high, with a compact but robust design reminiscent of a giant suitcase. Vescovo's first dive reached 25 m depth, slightly surpassing Cameron's previous dive and establishing a new world record for the deepest solo manned dive. But Vescovo's achievement wasn't limited to the depth record. He completed the dive to the Mariana Trench 4 times in just 8 days, a feat that highlights the incredible design of the DSA's limiting factor and his own endurance. By August 2022, Vescovo had completed an astonishing 15 dives to the Mariana Trench. During these historic missions, Vescovo came across the mysterious yet beautiful marine life of the depths. But among the wonders, there was a shocking discovery: a plastic bag and candy wrappers on the seabed at nearly 11-kilometer depth. Yes, humanity's trash has literally hit rock bottom. This discovery, though shocking, highlighted the magnitude of plastic pollution and its reach, even in the most remote regions of the planet. Vescovo's findings shed light on the global plastic pollution crisis, which, according to estimates, has resulted in the dumping of 220 million tons of plastic into the world's oceans. To give you an idea, that's equivalent to about 40 times the weight of the Great Pyramid of Giza. Worse still, microplastics, which are tiny plastic fragments, tend to contaminate the deepest areas of the oceans as they gradually sink to the depths. Microplastic levels in the deepest waters of the Hoddle Zone range between 8 and 51 particles per gallon, several times higher than those found in the surface waters of the open ocean. So yes, next time you throw away a wrapper, remember, it could end up deeper than your worst existential crisis. The extreme depths and inaccessibility of the Mariana Trench and the Challenger Deep have given rise to numerous conspiracy theories around this desolate place. Some have suggested that the Challenger Deep could harbor a secret government research center or perhaps a base for testing the most destructive weapons known. As we've already seen, being 10,9073 m below the surface of the Pacific Ocean makes accessing the Challenger Deep extremely difficult. More importantly, the tremendous pressure of 16,000 psi makes it extremely difficult for any submersible to get there. Consequently,